project like this, he mentioned something very intelligent. He said, frankly, we utilize electricity. So we are reducing from one end the implications of the pressures on the environment, and we are pressuring from the other end. And exactly. And that's why we run a study called life cycle assessment studies for the opportunity costs of both options. All of what we are saying right now and your proposition for the interest rate, and this is my conclusion here, and this is the point I want to put on the table, was not here, Ashraf, last year, and was not here 2 or 3 years before. It is here this year, and this is where we, I think, we should take the discussion further, breaking the business cases down more into details. And thank you so much.
Dr. Ehab, thank you so much. I'll open it, but I just want a point to touch on, since we are sitting right here, and the Egyptian Stock Exchange is right next door, and then the Egyptian Financial Regulatory Authority is right next to us, Alex Bank, CIB. I mean, this is the banking area of Smart Village. Now, when back in March 2020, we had invited Mohammed Farid to come and attend with us that event that we were holding, and we were very much specifically talking about what the Egyptian Stock Exchange was doing, and I think Ghada mentioned what the Arab stock exchanges are doing. But we were asking what's going to happen with this carbon exchange. Okay, and we talked about this, and it was quite interesting because they looked at it as a commodities exchange, not a financial exchange. So what are the dynamics that have happened specifically within the point of this carbon exchange? Where do we expect to be trading it, and how is it going to look? I mean, it's not here now, but maybe next year when we sit again, it should be around. So what's your take on it?
Let me give you some good news. We are now in consultation with the Egyptian Stock Exchange to, inshallah, promulgate the first carbon market in Egypt. We have finalized last year the first carbon market study on the Egyptian market. And we have also finalized a second study called the LEDS. And the LEDS is the Low Emission Development Strategy. And the LEDS is the strategy that shows how Egypt can decouple economic growth rates from environmental degradation. And we have identified 3 sectors that will be the forerunner sectors. And we have identified also projects. And by the way, one of the projects was conducted with Dr. Ghada Qalaa, which is a gas flaring. Yes. A gas flaring project, and the project is being financed by IFC. What I want to say here is that we finalized a study on the carbon market, and the major conclusion of this study was, should Egypt impose a carbon tax or a carbon market? And definitely the answer came to us, we will not be able to promote, in this period of time, we will not be able to allow a carbon tax. And this discussion was running in the same days of the yellow vests when they imposed the carbon tax in France. The answer was very clear to Egypt, no carbon tax now. Then we moved to a carbon market, and when we did the study of the carbon market, it turns out to be very successful. And just last week, 3 good news happens. The first good news is that the prices of the carbon certificates in the ETS, European Emission Trading State, jumped from $33 to $49 in just 3 weeks. This means that investors are coming and putting a lot of pressures. But this is the first good news. The second good news is that investors and not only traders are now entering the ETS markets. So they are hedging on the carbon certification program. The third is that Mr. Biden met the heads of the OECD countries in the last couple of weeks, and it seems that there are some leaks talking about that they are going to put restrictions on the credit ratings of the countries that are not respecting the Paris Agreement. This means the whole country credit rating will be impacted and affected in this respect. To give you some good news, total emissions that are coming out of Egypt is approximately 300,025 million tons of CO2 emissions. If we cross this by $50 per certificate, this turns to be a blessing rather than a curse. This is This is an inventory of commodities that Egypt has and can trade with the European Union. And currently, finally, just yesterday, we were in a public deliberation discussion to promulgate the first of its kind carbon emission reduction certificate of a company called Likila here that is operating a wind farm in Egypt. And it has been promulgated, خلاص, and it will enter into force. Unfortunately, Kaman, there are talks about that there are some companies in Egypt that want to buy this certificate to reduce its emission reduction. Thank you, Ashraf.
Dr. Ehab, Dr. Dalia, thank you very, very much. We can continue discussion, but I promised His Excellency that I would get him out before traffic. So if we can stop here, and please feel free to continue the discussion. And thank you all for being here again and being part of this and supporting the dialogue. And most importantly, happy Ramadan and happy Eid. And hopefully after Eid, we will repeat this again in more details, hopefully with more people, hopefully restrictions will be out, and hopefully we'll have a bigger system here